Hi everyone, thank you. Thank you for organizing this wonderful conference. My name is Neha Sharma and today I'm going to talk about scalable design system in React.js. I'm going to share whatever I learned while building the design system at my work. As I told you, my name is Neha Sharma. Currently, I'm working as full-time manager of UI at HCL Software. During my weekends, 5 years back, I started a community JS lovers, and during my weekends, I keep arranging meetups for that. Now it is in Delhi, Mumbai, Pune, and Bangalore. And thanks to the volunteer teams and attendees, we are able to came so far. When I'm not coding or talking at tech events or organizing any event, I enjoy doing calligraphy. If you want to see my calligraphy work, you can go to Instagram and follow me there. Before moving to the tech details, this is a message I wanted to share with everyone. This is a calligraphy I did last year. Please keep investing in yourself. Women who invest in themselves go very far. This is true, so true. So please keep doing that. So how my story of design system started. At my workplace, we were having around 60 products and every product was having their own sub-product as well as they were B2B, B2C. And the problem was that every product was having their own brand guidelines and they were not aligned with the organization theme. So the first task I got is that how we can solve this problem. So the solution was either we can go to everyone and explain them what are the guidelines, the code guidelines, brand guidelines, themes, and everything. But this is a huge task because going to every product team and doing workshop, explaining them was not an easy job. Then we thought that let's have the guidelines in place. The challenge with that is that the designers who are coming and going, they just, or the developers who are just onboarding the project, they might not have the time. So the solution came is design system. And I was pretty much excited because I really wanted to work on design system, especially when we are starting from the scratch. So the first thing what we did after deciding that let's build the design system is reach to our products to understand that what they need. We did the internal surveys, we asked them bunch of questions, and after that the results we got is it boiled down to this whole result. The UX, UI, the process, testing, they were asking everything. So few products were already using some design system, few were not using any design system. So our questions were around that which tech stack you are following. If you are using a design system, what things excite you and what things challenge you. And similarly, when we saw all the result, we realized that we need to build our own design system rather than picking any design system which is available in the market. So for us, the definition of design system got changed. For us now, it was not just a library of reusable components. Now for us, it was the reflection of our brand guidelines, as well as we wanted to make a tool so that the non-tech people like UX, product managers, they can build a quick prototype. As well as this was not an open source design system, it was of our organization. So we were also looking that if our own developers within our own organization can do the collaboration. Now the challenge is how to have scalability. Now the scalability doesn't mean that we have so many products, but the challenge of scalability was that in our organization we cannot push anyone to follow one particular tech stack, which means that any product can use whichever tech stack they want. So the challenge came to us is that we need to build a design system which is available in JavaScript, React, and other UI framework. Now, as the tech lead of that, as a UI manager and tech lead at that time, my first worry is that, our problem was that I wanted to solve that we are writing once and it is getting reused again and again. And in future, if a new framework is coming, we can extend easily our design system to that. So the question is how to have such scalability. So the first thing we did is we think about atomic design. So atomic design methodology is started by Brad Frost. I have this link, you can go there. There's a lot of information about this, but the basic summary of this is atoms are the building blocks, and these are basically, when we talk about encoding, atoms are basic HTML elements like labels, inputs, buttons, which cannot be broken down in further functional units. So our aim was to just focus on atoms. Instead of thinking like big components, just think in atoms, small components. How this helped us? So on the left side, for the product teams, these are the three different components. So whenever the product team was coming to us, do you have this component available in your design system? We used to tell them that yes, we do have, but how we have. On the right side of this screen, you will see that we have different atoms. So we have an image placeholder, we have card, we have button, we have close icon, heading, paragraph. So we used to tell them that these are the atoms available. You just pick from our design system, assemble them in whichever design you want. So this is the atom approach, the atomic design methodology approach helped us in meeting the different requirements of the product. The second thing we did was for the reusability. So in our design system, everything is a component, but what that component holds. That component has CSS, HTML, and framework specific code. So HTML and CSS is the two layers which were getting reused again and again. Either it's JavaScript, React, or any other framework. So the first thing we did is we were writing it once and we started reusing it again and again. So HTML and CSS is one layer which we took as reusability. We are writing HTML in the starting. When we are moving to React.js, we were having a utility which convert HTML to JSX. So the developer doesn't need to write JSX again. The second thing for the CSS, what we did is we moved away from CSS in JS to Sass. I'm a big advocate of CSS in JS. Style components provide very awesome flexibility when you are working with React. But in our case, the challenge is scalability. So we don't want the developer to write CSS again and again. And in that case, Sass is the wonderful solution. So what we did is we wrote the Sass files, and then any developer can go and reuse that Sass file in the React component, or if they have other components, non-React components, in that also. This also helps us in building, meeting the model approach of our components, which means that if a product just want to use button component, instead of having our full-fledged design system getting added in their node modules, now they can just import one component button, and with that component only the CSS of that component is coming. So we were able to meet what CSS in JS was providing in encapsulation, as well as we were able to scale our CSS also. The second thing what we did is, this was, I would say, the best thing we did, because our design system team was very small. And the thing what we did is we created a base component structure. How this helped us? This helped us in two ways. Now, whenever a new developer is joining our team, we were not spending time to explain him or her that how you need to create a component. This is our component structure and this is how you need to do. Or if someone wants to contribute in our design system, again the guidelines were there. The second thing which we did is we moved our all prop types on top. The reason was this was a readability benefit. So whenever I am opening some other developer component, I know what is required, what are the prop types are coming. So this also helped in readability. The third thing is component API and flexibility. This is very close to me because I spent a lot of time discussing about this. And if you are working on design system or planning to, I bet you will find yourself on the edge where you just want to create a new component rather than using the in components API. So what this is? So basically, if you will see in the screenshot, you have an accordion, and that accordion has different variants like compact, draggable, or default. So you need to handle the different variant of your component within your component API rather than creating a separate component for each. Now the question is why? Suppose I am the user of your design system and I am using accordion variant compact. Tomorrow I got a feature request where they want draggable. If I have a altogether different accordion draggable component, then I have to now import that component and start writing the code on that. But if you have handled this internally within your component API, all you need to do is, all your user need to do is just change the variant from compact to draggable, and your design system is capable of handling it. So this is how you are having a good user experience, as well as you are able to scale it. When I say scale it, in the React we have done this, and similarly we have done in non-React components also. One thing which we took care of, the names should remain the same. Many times you might face that when you are moving from React to another framework in your design system, the names are getting changed and it will confuse your developer. The second thing is flexibility. So when you are building a design system, what you want to do is introduce the consistency. But when you say flexibility, you are saying that your design system users can pass a component or can pass the HTML. So if you will see in the screenshot at the bottom line, bottom where I have highlighted, the bottom highlighted part, there the user is able to pass a component as well as an HTML. Initially, I don't wanted to do it. The reason is I felt that the essence of having a design system is getting lost, because now the design system users can pass anything and there would be bugs and error which we have to face. But later on, I got a lot of feedback from the users that they really wanted to have this flexibility. So what we did is we opened our component for the flexibility, and in the documentation we added do's and don'ts, which actually helped us in cover ourselves, but not 100%. We just had an accessibility talk, so we know that why accessibility is important. I am very much big advocate of accessibility. In our design system, a lot of people, a lot of developers are not aware of accessibility. To make sure that in our design system, whenever the new developer is coming or existing developer, they know that accessibility is important. For that, we moved our accessibility prop types on the top as default, so that we know that we need to address these. Second thing, for the accessibility roles and other things, we handle within our component API. So that if the design system user is not passing that, it's fine. At least our design system is capable of handling accessibility internally. The next thing is data validation. This is one thing which is very important. When we are having the inputs, text areas, these form components within our design system, we need to make sure the consistency is there. So that where your error stages is going to come, you need to define them in your design system. This is the one thing which I used to get a lot of questions around, that where should we publish our errors, where should we show our errors. So as a design system developer, author, you need to make sure that your errors are consistent across. So in our design system, our errors are coming inline, so you need to also take care of that. This is a small thing, but this helped us a lot. Because we were working in 3 different frameworks of design system, vanilla, React, and non-React. So in that case, what we did is the components name was same across all 3 repos. How this helped us in scaling? Because we were having a small team and we used to switch a lot between different technologies. So this helped us in having our conversation very smooth. Second, whenever our QA team is raising a defect, or UX team is doing some discussion around a component, we don't need to discuss that, oh, this component, what is the name of this component in JS repo or React repo or that repo. The communication become very smooth, and this helped us a lot. And as well as when we were actually giving demos to our users, our design system users, they also appreciated this thing. The next thing is design language. This is a very small thing, but trust me, if you will follow this, you will save you a lot of hours, because I was stuck in this for a day. Generally, what happened that every person assume the name of the component differently. So if you will see on the right side on the top, few people assume that this is a toast, or few people assume this is a notification, and all the confusion will start from there. So if as a developer, as a designer, I have given you a sketch file with notification name, but in the Jira, the story is toast, then obviously there is a mismatch. And similarly, if you as a design system author is confused between the name of the components, then obviously you are not going to write a good documentation or not able to explain to your user that what's the component name. So having a design language is very important, that what is the name of that component. We did this exercise initially in our design system UX workshops, and what we did is in our GitHub README, we started adding one-line explanation. So it's a toast, then what is the behavior? It's a notification, then what is the behavior? If it's an inline loader, then what is the behavior? So this helped us a lot in avoiding the miscommunication. Storybook. Storybooks are very, very important. Whenever I gave the demo of our design system, this is the most exciting part where all the products used to get excited, and especially non-tech people. The reason is now the feedback I got is they used to say that now we are not dependent upon tech people. Now we have a platform where we can go, just play around with the options, and we can see what all different designs are available, what all different components are available. So please go and explore Storybook. We have Storybook for React and Angular both. Both are having same experience with little bit of modification. As of now in Storybooks, there are very good add-ons available, as well as you can create your own add-ons. We are using knob, source, background, and accessibility. Again, accessibility is very important. Here also, when we showed them on the Storybook, you also get the accessibility test cases, that how many are passed and how many are failed. This also brings a lot of confidence of the product on the design system. So please go and use Storybook. The last but not the least thing is reducing the load of PRs. Because we were a very small team and the scale of the design system was very huge, as well as the products there were so many, the last thing we wanted to do is just having a lot of PRs requests. So what we did is we did a lot of automation. We moved our linters, validators, our accessibility plugins, our Lighthouse, bundle size analyzer, everything on pipelines. And whenever our any commit used to happen, these pipelines used to run and all checks used to pass. And after that, all the developer needs to do is just check the logic. This is very useful. I would please recommend everyone to move a lot of things to automation. This will save you a lot of time and energy. Learnings and challenges. There were a lot of learnings and challenges throughout working on the design system, but just to quote few. Scalability could be easy if you think in reusability. This is very important. The moment you will stop thinking what you can reuse, you won't be able to scale. So please always think about what you can reuse again and again. Evangelism is very hard. So in my organization, we cannot push anyone to use our design system. So that's why I have to go and do the demos, talk to tech people, and do the lot of evangelism, and it is very hard. But as a tech person, I learned that it is very important to meet the people face to face and see their reaction, what is exciting them and what is not, and then come back and do the changes accordingly. Early previews, early feedbacks, super awesome. Initially, as a tech person, I was not keen to do this because I wanted to always do the demo with perfect product. But I learned that it is very good to have early previews. Initial preview, the first preview which I did was with 4 components through my local host. And today, whatever we are able to shape in is because of the feedbacks we got. Document each and every process. It is very important because we are human. We don't remember a month back or 2 months back what is the decision we took. So documentation is very important. And please move every important things to the tools and automation. It is very important. Last but not the least, do not hesitate in bending some rule or creating new definition of your own design system. Always think about reusability. There is no harm to be a lazy developer. And thank you so much for organizing this conference. I will see you all in the Discord channel, and stay safe.